Clackamas County Board of Commissioners on this January 18, 2022 to our administrators' issues and updates. Gary, please take it away.
Thank you, Chair Smith. We have quite a few updates today, and you will be meeting as 4 different governing bodies today, and we will clearly state when those occur, and the chair will announce that. But you're going to start as the Board of County Commissioners. And an item that's actually not on your agenda, but I think it's important we all have a chance to debrief and talk about, and that is the Board of County Commissioners business meeting that occurred last Thursday, January 13th. And I'd love whoever would like to, maybe Chair Smith, if you'd like to start, to comment on what happened and what we're doing going forward. Thank you.
Well, yes, Gary, I think this is a topic that needs to be addressed in a truthful and direct manner. We've had a lot of press on this, and unfortunately, the press doesn't know what they don't know, and they reported on what they think they saw in the committee room. And unless you're actually present, you really don't know. And that goes for the people who were quoted in the story as well. I chaired the meeting. It was obvious before we walked in the room that the meeting room was packed with a lot of people, more than what the Hoodlum Park District proponents had. And we had a lot of cards that said they protested the mask mandate, which is fine. Since I became a chair, I have instituted the return to the open public meeting laws so people can come in and address their local government personally. And I think that's very important. And I have done that consistently throughout, even when I disagreed with opinion. When people call up on the Zoom and they disagree, and I have taken a lot of comment on disagreeing with our board, with individual members, down the gamut. I've pretty much allowed for that as long as it's civil and not over the top. But however, what was happening was very obvious. The media had reported that I shut down the meeting because people were not wearing masks. That is not true. People in the room were wearing masks. They didn't want to. Some of them were very unhappy about it, but they did wear masks. However, as the meeting continued with our public health report and the meeting continued, people became more boisterous. We're talking over people. I had asked several times for them to please be quiet and allow for discourse, that everybody in the room would get an opportunity to speak who wanted to. You have cards here, you may speak. I could feel it was ramping up. I could feel there were shouts in the crowd, there were insults, and I'm not sure if the media or the commissioners who Zoomed in could hear those. There were shouts, they were not respectful. And if you want to attend a meeting for the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners, you will be professional and you will be respectful. You do not have to know all the rules, but decorum and good manners will be followed, and they were not, to the extreme. I adjourned the meeting, and I'm glad I did, because we had security staff in the back who were able to confirm that had I not, they may have wanted to, quote, take the dais and oust the sitting commissioners. And I will not stand for that. Just know that. Our Clackamas County government is sovereign, and all commissioners are dedicated to make sure it is so. We will continue the operation of our business as we move forward. This week's business meeting will be Zoom only. People can call up and testify like they've always done, but it will not be in person. I am not sure when we're going to return to in-person meetings. There's a lot of civil unrest right now in America, in Oregon, and somewhat in Clackamas County. And our commissioners are dedicated to continue with the smooth operation of county business. But we cannot have disruptors, we cannot have rioters, and we cannot have people wanting to unseat the elected officials who the voters voted to put in office. And the reason why I have always said that I believe vaccines are a choice, and I will continue to stand by that. I do not believe in a vaccine mandate, period. But The governor has overruled many of our decisions that we make at this level. She has said, wear masks indoor. There were 60 people in attendance at last Thursday's meeting. At a fine of $500 each, that would have been a fine of $30,000 out of your taxpayers' money. I am not willing to put our budget and pay out that type of fine on a penalty. That's the first offense. The second offense, I am concerned, could be far worse. The governor could wield her heavy gavel at us. She could wield fines. We could lose our state funding on many programs that even these dissenters enjoy, like being able to call our police in the time of emergency, being able to call our ambulance, being able to drive the roads that got him here to the building to begin with. Our public clinics and our public health, all are services that our public demand, regardless of your political opinion. And I know myself and my commissioners will ensure that those services are carried out in the best we can. I stood up to the people who I believe crossed the line, and I will continue to do so. Thank you, Gary. Any other commissioners would like to say something? Go ahead. Sonia.
Thank you, Chair Smith. I just want to let you know that I deeply appreciate your leadership in that very challenging moment in making a call to move us virtually, which was very important. Most concerning are threats of taking the dais. That's something that we cannot allow. I also deeply appreciate your absolute commitment. We will get the work done in Clackamas County that we are called to do. This will not stop us. We have important work to do, and as a group, we will continue to do it. So thank you again for your leadership in that moment.
Thank you, Commissioner Fisher. Commissioner Savas, you're up.
Yeah, I just want to also echo that same sentiment. Appreciate Chair taking over the meeting as you had to and adjourning. I think people need to be mindful that the health and safety and welfare of every person in the room, staff included, all around, it's our responsibility and to a greater share your responsibility running the meeting. So you did well. You did what you had to do. I do want to say, that as a participant that was participating virtually, I could hear some disruption and interruption, over the audio piece. So I can only imagine. I know that it must have been louder, more obvious. Was not in the room to have all that to experience that directly. But I could hear over those. I could hear those interruptions. So I knew it was not. People were not being respectful if they were interrupting while other people were speaking. So we will do what we need to do to protect everyone and run good meetings. And I appreciate your leadership with that in mind. Thank you.
Well, thank you, commissioners. I can't be a leader unless I have your support, and you've been very supportive of me, and I am grateful for the opportunity. Any other comments? Commissioner Scholl, do you have anything you need to say, or Commissioner Schrader?
Chair Smith, I'd like to say to the folks that are watching today, the Board of Commissioners at Clackamas County is very concerned about transparency and listening to the views and comments from people, be it from email, personal testimony during meetings. And I just remind people that in order for us to hear your concerns and your communications, we need to maintain decorum in any future meeting. Thank you all. And I look forward to hearing from everybody, but in a peaceful way. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Scholl. Martha?
Yeah, I just want to thank my colleagues for being my good colleagues. And Commissioner, you did a phenomenal job that night. I was hearing things in the background. I didn't realize it was that bad, but I think you handled it beautifully. And thank you for your courage.
Thanks, Martha.
It's all you guys. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. I'll always welcome a lieutenant colonel on my right side to help maintain order. Thank you very much. Gary, what's up next?
Thank you, Chair Smith. I'm going to rotate the agenda just a bit, first to accommodate our elected officials, other elected officials here today. The next item will be approval of the Clackamas County Investment Policy. County Treasurer Brian Nava will present. So one moment as he comes into the room, and there was a memo in your packet with the draft policy. So as soon as he's here, Treasurer Nava, please go ahead.
Good morning. Thanks, County Administrator Schmidt. Commissioners, Chair Smith, thanks for having me this morning. This morning, I'm here to present the Clackamas County Investment Policy. The Clackamas County Investment Policy provides the framework for the investment of the county's public funds by the Treasurer's Office. The county chooses to purchase investments with a maturity between 0 and 36 months. The Oregon Short-Term Fund Board requires annual adoption of the plan by the Board of County Commissioners. No changes in substance have been made to the policy from the previous version reviewed and approved by the board on December 17th, 2020. With that, I am prepared to answer any questions or provide any further comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Treasurer Nava. Questions, go ahead. Any questions about the policy on the Clackamas County Investment Policy? I do believe it's statutorily regulated, is that correct? And you make investments by what's statutorily allowed for solvency and whatever, correct?
Absolutely, yes. Our priorities are safety, liquidity, yield. So we ensure the safety of the funds. We make sure they're liquid so that they're available when the commissioners choose how to spend it. And then we try and get the best yield possible.
Okay, any other comments for Treasurer Nava on this?
I'd just like to thank Treasurer Nava for his work, his great staff, and continue doing the great job you're doing, sir.
Thanks, Commissioner.
Sonia.
Thank you, Chair Smith. Nice to see you, Treasurer Nava, even if you're a little square in the middle of my screen. I appreciate you stating what the criteria is for investment. I'm wondering, there has been some talk in public discourse about where the money is invested, like what are the values of certain portfolios, where's the money going, what's it supporting? Do we do any of that vetting in Clackamas County? And if not, should we be doing that?
Absolutely. So we vet that every day. So we do, we have our broker dealer relationships that we do annually or as needed, and typically annually is sufficient, as well as my deputy treasurer is managing those investments on a daily basis. So this morning when I came in, the market was up and running. As you know, the East Coast tends to start work a little bit earlier than we do on the West Coast. So I already had 7 emails from different brokers, dealers in terms of investment opportunities. We also have what kind of as a best practice, especially in Oregon, is we have a portfolio ladder. So we make sure we're laddering our investments appropriately to have some good liquidity, and also with our cash flow. As you can imagine, November is extremely busy in terms of cash flow. And so we're ensuring we're kind of managing that money the best we can as well. And of course, any reports I get monthly reports, and sometimes more frequent than that, in terms of what we're investing in. And so I'm always happy to go over that with commissioners as well as the public. We don't get it very often, but occasionally we'll get some questions related to what we're investing in, related to the kind of the ESG movements and sustainability and things of that nature. So yeah, so always happy to go over that with you or anybody else, Commissioner Fisher. And if there's any reports that we provide a monthly report to the BCC and County Administration about our current cash flow. I sign that every month, and we make sure we send it over there. And so if there's any more details or anything else that you guys need, just don't hesitate to let me know, because we can use our investment software to organize it in various different fashions.
Thank you, Brian. Gary, what's the action we take on this item?
To approve, would you please make a motion to state your approval?
I will entertain a motion at this time.
Move for approval.
Seconded.
Commissioner Savas has moved for approval of the Treasurer's investment report. Commissioner Scholl has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Shannon, can you take the poll, please?
Commissioner Fisher. Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Brian, thank you for all your good work on keeping Clackamas County financially solvent.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Aye, Gary, what's up next?
Thank you. Next, again, with our other elected official, we'll go to legislative request, district attorney discovery costs. We have District Attorney John Wentworth and Chris Lyons from Public and Government Affairs. There was a memo in your packet about this. So we'll wait a moment for them to come into the room, please.
Good morning, commissioners.
Everybody here is
Waiting for John Wentworth. He's also in the attendees list. One moment, please. There he is. All right, go ahead, District Attorney Wentworth and Mr. Lyons.
Great, I'll kick us off and then District Attorney will provide additional information. And we will continue this trend of discussing financial solvency. This is a legislative issue that has come up in just the past couple weeks related to the District Attorney's office, and we are seeking your direction on it. The background is that DA offices statewide charge costs to public defense attorneys to offset the cost of providing discovery prior to trials beginning. The Office of Public Defense Services, OPDS, has paid these costs for decades, and it's our understanding that public defense attorneys who are contracted through OPDS have been reimbursed for these costs over that time. But very recently, OPDS announced that they will no longer pay these costs beginning January 1st. So what this means to Clackamas County is a roughly $250,000 hit to our budget, which was not budgeted for. And statewide, the impacts to counties could be as high as $6 million. So we are looking to the legislature to find a fix to this issue during the upcoming short session. And by we, there are numerous counties that have already taken positions on this in just the past week, including Washington County, Marion County, and Lane County, I believe. So your memo includes a draft letter that we have composed for our Clackamas County delegation, asking for their support to find a remedy to address this issue here in the next few weeks.
Chris, I'm going to ask you to pause. People, I cannot pull up the documents on my side computer. So as far as today's date is concerned, there's county administrator issues and updates, and I have no packets. I don't know about the rest of you. And frankly, I have not had time to read this letter. Paul, your hand is up.
Yeah, yeah, I did read the material. What's not there, Chris, maybe you explain is why. Why are they no longer going to pay this?
I'm going to turn it over to the DA on that.
That's a great question. There was a legislative work group regarding discovery that convened during this last session, the 2020 session. And the DAs negotiated in good faith to change the language of the discovery statute, which previously said that the district attorney will make available discovery and changed it to the district attorney shall provide discovery. This new executive director at the Oregon Public Defense Services, Stephen Singer, has joined Oregon from Louisiana, and he now takes the position that when the statute says shall provide, doesn't say shall that we get to charge for it. We have to provide it whether we get reimbursed for it or not. I will add, and this is the political part of it, that in his article, Oregon Public Broadcasting did an article where they interviewed Mr. Singer, and he said, hey, what kind of system do we have where indigent defendants have to pay for their discovery? Indigent defendants are not paying for discovery. You and I are. This money comes from the Oregon State Legislature. It's given to OPDS, which currently has $440 million per biennium. And they suggest, this executive director Singer says that $6 million of that is money that the legislature gives to the defense to pay for the discovery that they receive. And that money comes to us. And the change will be that this money now comes out of our budget, our county budget. right? Because we have to provide that discovery no matter what. And it runs about $250,000 a year. That number actually could go up now that we have body cams coming on. Every police agency in Clackamas County by the end of the year, as I understand it, will have body cams. That's a huge addition to the discovery that we're going to be providing. So that's what puts us in this position.
Oh, thank you for that explanation. I think it's incumbent upon us to work with our other counties at AOC or whatever level to advocate for, the existing policy and not incur this expense, because this may have some, will have some detrimental effects. It seems like we battle this all the time when the legislature goes in session. There's these things that have been funded, and all of a sudden the legislature pulls the funding for one reason or another. And it's tiring, and it keeps us on our toes. And so we need to do what we can to maintain the status quo.
Excuse me, other comments for commissioners on this? I have read the letter now. I'm having trouble, but I have the link now. Thank you. It's almost as if we can't defund our police, we'll defund the prosecution in their efforts after the arrests are made. I don't appreciate that. It's not a position that the residents of Clackamas County will take lightly if we're not able to do prosecutions as we move forward. I support the letter, commissioners. I'm seeing head nods. I don't see any opposition. And Gary, is that good enough, or do we need a motion on this?
I would propose you make a motion to take a position on this legislation, since this is not on your current legislative agenda as well.
Okay, Gary, would you like to state that motion for us and include this letter of support for DA Wentworth?
Yes. So Chris, I'm going to punt that to you. Can you state the legislation the board would take a position on?
Yes, legislation to remedy the district attorney discovery costs issue.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Fisher has made the motion to support the remedy for the defunding of our DAs across Oregon. Commissioner Schrader has seconded that motion. Would the maker of the motion also like to include the letter of support for DA Wentworth? She says yes. Commissioner Schrader, do you approve that second? Okay, we have a double two-part motion here. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, Shannon, please take the poll.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Chris and DA Wentworth, for coming forward. You know we support DA Wentworth, your efforts trying to bring order to a lot of civil unrest out there right now.
Board Chair, thank you. And board, I really appreciate the support. This is really helpful. Thank you.
You bet. Gary, what's up next?
All right, thank you again. I'm moving around the agenda. You are still meeting as a Board of County Commissioners. Next, Boone's Ferry Dock Grant Support Letter Draft. Sarah Ekman from Business and Community Services, if you'll please bring her in the room. There's also a memo in your packet and a draft support letter for this grant application. So we'll pause just a moment for Sarah. All right, Sarah, welcome. Please go ahead.
Good morning. I also have Tom Riggs, Parks and Forestry Manager, with me. Shannon, if you could come in. But good morning, Chair Smith and Commissioners. I'm here with Tom Riggs, our Parks and Forestry Manager, this morning to ask for your support for a grant project which would replace I have to get the terminology right, the boarding docks, I believe, at the Boone's Ferry Boat Launch, which is a facility that is owned by Clackamas County. So Tom's just going to provide a bit more information about it. And then if you are in agreement, we would like to request your support via signature on a letter of support for the project.
I have a question. Is the $112,500 grant, is that the full cost of the replacement of this dock?
No, the full cost is $150,000 project with 37,000 coming out of county parks operating funds as our 25% match for the Oregon State Marine Board grant. We'll also be supplying another 6,125 estimated in administrative support value, but cash out of park operating funds would be 37,500.
Okay, and we have budgeted for this or not?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And who does the repairs? Do we contract out a company to do that?
Yeah, we would contract out, work with Marine Board on the design and scope of work, but then hire a contractor to remove the old docks and install the new ones.
Great, very much. Thanks. Paul, your hand is up.
Yeah, move for approval of the letter and the request.
Seconded.
Commissioner Savas has moved for approval of the grant application for the replacement of the Boones Ferry dock. Commissioner Scholl has seconded that motion. Any further discussions? Seeing none, Shannon, please take the poll.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher, Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, you're still meeting as a Board of County Commissioners, a Metro Supportive Housing Services Intergovernmental Agreement. Please bring in Andrew Naylor and Emily Klepper. Commissioners, you're actually discussing this at your board meeting this Thursday as a discussion item. So you'll have a full chance to have a public discussion Thursday, but we just want to have a briefing for you today. If you had any questions or comments as this goes on your agenda for this Thursday. Again, this is the Metro Supportive Housing Services Intergovernmental Agreement. Andrew, if you'd go ahead, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. Like Gary said, before you is the final negotiated intergovernmental agreement with Metro for use of the supportive housing service dollars collected by Metro under the SHS tax. This IGA, which was the result of extensive negotiations between Metro, Clackamas, Washington, and Multnomah County, establishes the rules of the road with respect to this program, how the funds will be used. It identifies roles and responsibilities with respect to accounting, budgeting, collection, distribution, and those sort of things. It also establishes a very detailed dispute resolution process with the intent to avoid disputes before they go too far down the road. It clarifies roles with respect to regional implementation through the Regional Oversight Committee in the Tri-County Planning Body, as well as other key committees to assist the parties throughout implementation of this program over the next 10 years or so that this Metro SHS tax is in place. So staff is requesting that this board approve the IGA in substantially the form enclosed in your packet at the board's next available business meeting. And Emily and I are happy to answer any questions or concerns this board may have. The only other piece that I guess I would add to this is we are also requesting a delegation of authority for the chair to sign the IGA, provided that there are no non-substantive, non-material changes. The reason we're asking for this delegation is the other counties are reviewing a nearly identical version of this IGA. So if something should pop up at the last minute, we just want to have the flexibility to address it. Provided it's not a material change. And we have no reason to think anything like that would happen, but just in case.
Commissioner Savas, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I want to first of all thank staff, Andrew, Emily, all our H3S staff, HAC staff that have worked on this, and also want to thank our regional partners for their work and working as a team in getting this to this point. As we all may recall, remember that it was anticipated that this work and this IGA would be completed and signed in June of 2021. So we're 7 months past the original anticipated date. The lack of this agreement has hindered our ability to communicate with the public, communicate with our other jurisdictions and service providers. And so while I'm very pleased that we are at this point, I want to make sure that we act with expedience. As my understanding, I don't know if it was unanimous or not, but I do know that the Metro Council passed and signed the IGA on Thursday of last week. I would like to see us do same on this Thursday. If there, unless there's a good reason why, but however, I think that the faster I know that the faster we act on this, the sooner we can get the process underway to secure whatever amount of funding we need to make all ends meet and ramp up the LIP and provide services to our constituents. That's been the goal. The handicap has been the funding. I won't go into the details of about that. We certainly all know that the cash flow has been not as planned, and that's not our fault, but the tax collection has not met anywhere near by far anticipation. I believe as of December, it was $906,000 in entirety when it was portrayed to us that it would be $24 million or north of $24 million. So we want to ramp up the LIP. We want to get the services out to those in need. And I think doing anything but signing it on Thursday or acting expediently would be problematic. So I urge my colleagues to and make sure staff, and the question to staff is, or Gary or Andrew, are we ready to sign this? Is it ready for signature and approval on Thursday?
Yes, it is.
It is.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, it is ready for signature.
We have 2 more commissioners in the queue. Gary, I am a bit perplexed that our housing representatives are not here. Vahid Brown is not here and Rod Cook is not in the room. They should be here. This is their department. With that in mind,
That's on me, Chair. I did not think to invite them because Andrew and Emily had been kind of the leads, but that's on me, Chair.
I have appreciated, Emily, how much hard work she has done that. And I believe if it hadn't been for Emily Klepper and Andrew Naylor, we may not be in the good situation we are in. However, it is not their responsibility. The responsibility lies in H3S and the housing department. Those 2, 5, 6, I don't know how many people are there, need to step up and take responsibility for this. They need to be in this room. They need to be at the business meeting on Thursday to answer any and all questions. With that in mind, Commissioner Fisher, you're up.
Thank you, Chair Smith. I do appreciate seeing Emily here and just want to thank her personally and publicly for engaging with us on these important issues. I had the privilege of being the county representative at the table when this measure was being devised. And one aspect that we fought for really hard was that the plan would be implemented the way that we felt was necessary from a local Clackamas County perspective. And that is a paramount value, that we would have autonomy in the delivery of the services. And I know that Emily worked diligently and in working with me on the history of how this was conceived and what was put out to the voters, and to make sure that this ended up in the intergovernmental agreement. And so that's really important to the residents of our community. And I really want to thank you for that. And of course, to everyone else involved in this, this was a how do you say that word? Herculean? How's the word? Chair Smith, I'm looking at, effort.
Effort, yes.
And quite frankly, I'm happy that we did it. We didn't do it quickly, but we did it right, and that we took the time. We had good advice from council that allowed us to do, what do you call it? A temporary intergovernmental agreement or a short-term intergovernmental agreement so that we could begin implementation. And now, commissioners, we have all been told that the bulk of these resources are going to be coming in the 4th quarter, which is coming up real soon, beginning between April and June of this year. And so, Gary, I'm looking at you right now in support of what Chair Smith has said. We as commissioners need to know how we're faring in being able to execute on the implementation of our plan. It was my understanding that the resources that we put together to get us to where we are right now creates the infrastructure. Now we need to just make sure we are able to execute coming just a few months here. It's coming real fast.
Yep. So first, I want to clarify the staff is here, Chair Smith. So Rod Cook, Ed Johnson, Tony Carter are all here. They're in the room right now. They can either answer your question now, Commissioner Fisher, or again, your discussion's on Thursday. This is just to prep you for Thursday. So if you'd rather talk here or Thursday or both, that's your call. But if you want them to answer your question now, Commissioner Fisher, they could do that.
Well, if they're ready to, I don't want to put anyone on the spot. I just know that we are going to have, if the predictions are correct, an influx of tremendous amount of resources, and the goal will be to get those out to the people that need them.
Is that a question for staff or so if we want, Commissioner Fisher, let's present these questions now to staff and we can bring them up Thursday for discussion. I don't think the questions or the answer will change the course of our action. I don't believe so, unless there's something else to know about. Commissioner Schrader, you're up.
Yeah, I just really want to thank Emily and Andrew for their hard work. Thank you, guys. Couldn't have gotten here without you.
Thank you, Martha. Commissioner Savas, you're up.
Yeah, I do want to make it clear that the finances for rolling out the LIP are obviously, again, did not come in time to implement the plan. I have two things. I have one question and one statement. So I want to ask my question first. I don't know who wants to answer it, and that is the LIP, which I think needs improvement. And some changes. The LIP, was that intended to be a 1-year document, a 12-month document, or was that considered to be a 5-year or 10-year document? I thought it would be subject to review and alterations as needed on an annual basis. It's going to be expiring on middle of April. So I want to know what our opportunities are to make revisions.
Yeah, I'd like an answer to that. Whatever staff member wants to handle that, go ahead.
My understanding is, I'm sorry, Tony Carter, Housing Authority of Clackamas County. The heat is out sick today, so I am covering for him on behalf of the Housing Authority. The local implementation plan is a living document. It is up for renegotiation and edits as needed to implement it best for our county.
What's the renegotiation issues? What's the topics? Do we renegotiate everything? Or are there certain items in there that are up for renegotiation and then others are not? I don't understand that.
There are guiding principles for the Metro bond that we have to follow. Like we can't go outside of the UGB, we have to serve a certain clientele. Those kind of criteria we cannot change, but how we implement and how we use the money, if our focus is going to be more towards development or versus a rental assistance, more push in the program with services, those are the kind of focus we can give to our plan that would change its direction a little bit.
Yeah, thank you so much. If I could follow on my second piece, and I'll just close with, it's nice to know that we can change the document. It seems as though that, what I think it's a little weak on is number one, calling out some specificity perhaps in the way, or more specificity around sheltering or shelters, and hopefully some emphasis on drug, alcohol, and behavioral health facilities or treatment in a much more substantial way. That said, the second part that I want to kind of speak to a little bit is that, when these revenues start to flow, and I know this is very complex, and hopefully the Housing Task Force group, Commissioner Schrader and I and staff can navigate and do our third quarter financial analysis to make sure that the financing is there, in advance of these funds that'll come somewhere in the latter part of this fiscal year, that being May, June, that is that the monies, because of the fact that the tax collections were not announced in a way that every employer and taxpayer or that are subject to this tax were aware of, we're going to see and hopefully there'll be some clarity as to what what these tax revenues are 2021 revenues and which of those are 2022 revenues. So that way we can better understand what the cash flow will be in years to come. And this will not be, the next year, 12 months or so will not be really the measurement or the barometer of things to come. It'll be kind of like an anomaly or as things settle out. And as my understanding from talking to some of the finance people in the region, that it may be 2023 or 2024 till we have a good idea what the cash flows will be. So my concern is, and I want to make sure that everyone's aware that, let's just say it's June of this year and we see that, we're seeing a payment or a distribution of dollars, and let's say it's $10 million. I think I want to be able to understand which of that is the back payments that were actually due and should have been collected in 2021, and what is going forward with the 2022 flows. So we understand, get a better idea what that is. And that'll help all of us better understand how to plan and finance and pay for the services without overspending, and also that we're not underspending, that we're getting those dollars out as efficiently as possible. It's complex, sorry, but that's my comment. Thank you.
Commissioner Fisher, you're up.
Thank you, Chair Smith. I just wanted to mention, with the development of the local implementation plan, it was a really involved process, as much as COVID allowed, to do a lot of community outreach that served as the basis for that. And I understand Vahid is not here today, but it was a phenomenal process. So how we move forward, having that as our foundation will be very important, and continuing to engage with our stakeholders and community partners will be essential to make sure that we are transparent and we continue to build trust in the delivery of these services.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioners, as I said earlier, I need to take a depart from this. I'm doing a TV interview. Commissioner Schrader, you are up to finish the meeting. By the way, if there's a vote needed, I am in full support of moving this to the business meeting on Thursday. Thank you very much. I will leave now and return.
Okay. Thank you. So, Gary, do we need to have a motion to accept this?
No, it's already on your business meeting agenda for Thursday. This is just preparing you for that. So that will be your time to approve this or not.
Okay, well, sounds good. So what's up next?
All right, thank you. Thank you, staff, for being present. We'll see you on Thursday. Next, board, your business meeting agenda review for this Thursday, January 20, 2022. You are meeting at 10 a.m. It will be entirely remote on Zoom, no in person. You have 3 public hearings. 2 of them are boundary annexations for Clackamas County Service District number 1. The third is a continuation of the Hoodland Park District proposal public hearing. Then you will have a discussion item on the Metro Supportive Housing Services Intergovernmental Agreement, which you just discussed. And then you have a consent agenda, primarily items from today that you'll move forward. That is your agenda. If you do have any items, please let me know prior to Thursday and we can answer your questions for you. All right, at this point, I'm going to move on to the consent agenda. We're going to do county items first. So I'll ask staff to come in and out here. We'll pause a moment to do that. We'll just go down the list. So county council is first. I assume Stephen is doing this one, Shannon, so please bring in Stephen. First item, approval of a settlement agreement in the case of estate of Brian Perry versus Clackamas County. Total agreement is $300,000 funded by the County Risk Fund, some of which is county general funds. Who's presenting, Shannon?
I am not seeing Stephen Madcourt in the attendees list right now. I do see Jeffrey Munns and Andrew Naylor.
Okay.
There's Stephen.
Hello.
Hello, Stephen. Go ahead.
Yes, this is on the Perry case. So we're looking for board authority to settle this case for $300,000. This was presented to you during an executive session last week. Some of the details of the matter. The board needs to approve any settlement in excess of $100,000. And that is why it is on the board's consent agenda for Thursday.
Any discussion? I can't see people's hands raised, so you're going to have to signal.
We'll help you, Commissioner Schrader. So again, do you have any concerns about putting this forward to consent agenda, commissioners? I'm not seeing any. All right, thank you, Stephen. Next is Health, Housing, Human Services. Please bring in Ed, and I see Rod is with Ed in the conference room. First item, approval. I'll wait till they're here. 1 second, please. All right, Ed, please unmute yourself. There you go. So we have Rod Cook and Ed Johnson in the conference room. We're going through your consent agenda now. First item, approval of a contract with Lifeworks Northwest for early assessment and support alliance services. Maximum contract value not to exceed $1,397,100.24. Funding is through the state of Oregon Community Mental Health Program funds. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, please, Ed.
Hey, good morning, Commissioners, Gary. So this provides early assessment and support alliance ESA services. It's a 2-year outreach agreement for treatment program for young adults ages 25 through ages 25 with early symptoms of psychosis.
All right, any questions or concerns, commissioners? Nope. Not seeing any, chair. Move on to item 2, approval of an amendment to a contract with Julie Wood for involuntary commitment program court examiner services. The amendment adds $6,000 to the contract, increasing the maximum value of the contract to $39,000. This is funded through county general funds. Go ahead, Ed.
Yes, this amendment adds funds for the court examiner services at civil commitment hearings for the involuntary commitment program. This amendment also extends the terms of the contract to ensure that there's no gap in services.
Any questions? All good?
Okay, all good. Next, item 3, approval of an amendment to a contract with Northwest Family Services for drug and alcohol pre-engagement and prevention activities. The amendment adds $51,140.07 to the contract, increasing the maximum value of the contract to $204,560.30. Funds are through the state of Oregon, Oregon Health Authority, no county general funds involved. Go ahead, Ed.
Yes, this program provides drug and alcohol pre-engagement and prevention activities for Clackamas County middle school and high school students.
Okay, any questions? Good.
None. All right. Next 4, approval of an amendment to a contract with the Inn Home for Boys, doing business as True Housing for Alcohol and Drug-Free Housing. The amendment adds $23,250 to the contract, increasing the maximum value of the contract to $93,000. Funding is through the state of Oregon, Oregon Health Authority. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, Ed.
This program provides alcohol and drug-free permanent housing for up to 6 women and children. The amendment extends the terms of the contract and adds funds to ensure no gaps in services.
Right, good.
Not seeing any concerns. All right, very good. Thank you, Ed and Rod. Moving on now to finance next. Please bring Elizabeth into the room. We'll pause just a moment, please. All right, Elizabeth, welcome. Finance, item 1, approval to accept an amendment to the grant award from the state of Oregon, acting by and through the Oregon Military Department for FEMA wildfire declaration and straight line winds. The amendment increases the reimbursement rate from 75% to 100% for the period of September 11, 2020 through October 10th, 2020. Funding is through FEMA and administered by the Oregon Management Department. No county general funds are involved. Elizabeth, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So last Wednesday morning, this is Elizabeth Cumber, Finance Director. Last Wednesday morning, FEMA sent us an opportunity to increase our reimbursement rate for the wildfire expenses from September 11th through October 10th to 100% from the 75%. So as it states in the staff report, that gives us $1.4 million reimbursed at 100%. of approximate 1.6 million of those expenses. The difference will be expensed at or reimbursed at 75%.
All good? Okay.
Any very good. Thank you, Elizabeth. Next, we'll bring in Daniel. There, very good, Shannon. Very good. Daniel, disaster management is next. Item 1, approval of a cooperation agreement between Clackamas County and Portland General Electric for using FEMA grant funds in partnership for the Mount Hood Corridor Resilience Project, funded through FEMA Building Resilient Infrastructures for Communities, or BRIC grant. No county general funds are involved. Daniel, go ahead.
Daniel Neubauer, Interim Director of Disaster Management. Commissioners, Administrator Smith, this first item outlines the administrative relationships as we put in our application for the BRIC grant. It says things like PGE will provide the overall project management, engineering services, including monthly reports, and that if awarded, the county will work to award PGE the work and enter into a more formal agreement, which that agreement will specify things like PGE taking responsibility to maintain the infrastructure and completing the work.
Okay, I know we had some discussion over this. Are we all right with it now?
So your discussions over the next item, actually, if I may, so Daniel, let me introduce the second item because these are both intertwined. Item 2, this is what you pulled from your consent agenda last Thursday. Approval of a maintenance assurance letter for the Federal Emergency Management 2021 Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities Grant, or BRIC grant, with Portland General Electric. There's no direct fiscal impact yet. Forgive me, Daniel, I'm going to jump in. We are signing a letter saying we, Clackamas County, are responsible for the maintenance of this project once it is built, a $50 million project. So the reason you pulled this, commissioners, is you had some concern that there wasn't an agreement in place with PGE that they would cover the costs, which they will. And that is the item 1, the cooperation agreement addresses those concerns. So with that, Daniel, any comments on item 2 or both of these?
No, just item 2 is a letter required by FEMA for the award of the grant. It's written into most mitigation grants so that FEMA has assurance the project will be maintained and federal grant dollars are not wasted. Our intent had been for the letter to come from PGE, but FEMA and the state both require that the letter come from the grant sub-applicant, in this case, the county. And that's why we specified in the cooperative agreement that once the grant, if the grant is awarded, that a formal agreement will occur between the county and PGE that delegates the responsibility for the maintenance of the infrastructure to PGE.
Commissioner Savas has his hand raised, Chair.
Right, go.
Yeah, so thank you. So it seems to me at some point that while it is a grant at this point, that we have a requirement to better understand, it's a legal question, I guess, as to our responsibilities to make sure we're not actually found ourselves liable for any shortfalls or any problems in the execution of this up to $50 million, obviously. So that's our legal exposure. It's probably, is this the time to clarify that, or do we wait until after the grant's approved for the legal document? So it's more of a legal question, I think, and a financial concern, that how we do this in a way that we're not subject to any unanticipated cost or responsibilities.
Daniel, can you answer that, Daniel?
Well, we don't have the grant. The grant is not awarded yet, so we don't have to do the work, so we're not at risk. We do have the opportunity, of course, to turn down the grant if we're not able to come to an agreement with PGE that would meet federal, state, and then our standards. So we're not obligated to definitely have to do this project or to do any of the maintenance on it. But once the grant, hopefully, if the grant is awarded, we'll have the opportunity to work out those details with PGE, in which case that agreement would come back to this board for your review and approval.
Has our legal department been engaged about this concern?
Both the cooperative agreement and the maintenance assurance letter have gone through county council.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay. And Chair. All right. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
Next, transportation development. Let's bring in Dan Johnson and Mike Palmer, please. Wait just a moment for that. Dan, 1 second, please.
Could I ask you also bring Warren Gadbury in?
Yes, please. All right, 1 moment, please, till everyone's loaded in the room. Okay, great. So Transportation and Development, item 1, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation for the use of Bailey Bridge components as temporary detour structure. Total project estimate, $942,000. Total reimbursement from an intergovernmental agreement is $14,000 funded through the Damascus Roads Fund. No county general funds are involved. Dan, please go ahead.
Great, thank you so much. Dan Johnson, Director of Transportation and Development. In January of 2021, heavy rains and strong winds caused trees to fall into a tributary of Johnson Creek, resulting in the failure of a culvert supporting the road known as Hideaway Court. Hideaway Court is a sole access to 11 residences, and there are currently no feasible detours publicly maintained lands that would provide an alternative access. A temporary bridge was borrowed from the Oregon Department of Transportation and placed as an interim measure until the culvert be replaced. This IGA before you today for consideration formalizes the working agreement made between Oregon Department of Transportation and DTD at the time of the emergency borrowing and authorizes the county to reimburse ODOT for expenses incurred during the installation and eventual return of the bridge and its components. Through this IGA,
You're on, Dan, you're on mute.
My apologies. Through this agreement, the county is also responsible for the maintenance, repair, and/or restoration of the bridge components until it is returned to ODOT. The county's use of the bridge may be up to 2 years as we move towards a permanent solution. The maximum established reimbursement to ODOT to be authorized through this IGA is $14,000. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Colleagues, I apologize. I have a barking dog. Any questions?
I'm not seeing any questions, Chair. Okay, very good. We'll move on to item 2, authorization to purchase 17 2021 Dodge Durango Pursuit, all vehicle AWD vehicles from Withnell Motor Company through the state of Oregon for the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office. The total purchase value is $594,449.54. This is funded through general funds and it has been budgeted through the Sheriff's Office. We have Dan and also Mike Palmer from the Sheriff's Office. Don't know who you want to kick it off, Dan or Mike?
Yeah, I'd love to. Yep. Basically, just to make sure we're clear, Fleet has a very great working relationship with CCSO, and we are facilitating this acquisition by the Sheriff's Office. Clackamas County Sheriff has requested that Fleet assist in the purchase of these 17 2021 Dodge Durangos. These vehicles will be assigned at the Sheriff's Office Patrol Division and will replace aging vehicles that are currently assigned to the Patrol Division. Approval of this request is being requested under the authority of the cooperative procurement process. That process does require notice be sent out or notified to the public of this request. That intent to purchase was issued on November 3rd, 2021, and no comments were received at the time of the closing on November 10th, 2021. We'd be happy to, staff would request this be authorized to move forward to the consent agenda. We've got Mike and Warren available if there are any questions, because if you ask me one question about these cars, I won't be able to answer it. So,
thank you. Commissioner Savas has his hand raised, Chair.
All right, Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, thank you, gentlemen. Dan and especially Mike and Warren for inviting me out to the facilities about a year ago, I believe. So thank you for that. At that time, I think we had a discussion about the disposition of some of the vehicles to get auctioned off and to, because there's a lot of vehicles sitting out there idle that are taking up valuable space. And so I would like to get just a rough idea. I haven't seen anything come across the board as far as, proving, I don't know if we need to or have to, or it's planned as such, but I want to know if we're making progress on that, because it looks like there's been quite a backlog. And I think you all shared that with me. That's question number 1. And the second question, you want to answer them all at the same time. Is this the same 17 vehicle purchase that was in front of us not that long ago? Or is this a second 17 vehicle or a second purchase of this size?
So let me answer that second question first. Mike Plummer at the Sheriff's Office. The last issue that we brought before you actually was the request for a purchase order from McLaughlin and Early for these vehicles. So it was to actually purchase the equipment that we're going to be putting into these vehicles. And the reason why that was prior to the actual request for the vehicles is, as many of us know, it's just an access. There's a challenge acquiring parts and materials. Supply chain has damaged every industry, but it's really hit the auto industry pretty hard. So we came to you before for the PO to request so we can kind of get ahead of the game to purchase the equipment for those. So the 17 patrol Dodge Durangos that we talked about previously are these vehicles in question.
And I guess let me start with the response to the first, and Warren, I'm going to come to you with our good work. I am pleased to report that we have had continued discussions and growth in our process and refinement in our process to deal with that backlog through our partners over in procurement. And I guess, Warren, if you'd like to expand on that, or even Mike too, I'd open the floor to you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's Warren Gedbury, the fleet manager. As Dan points out, we've worked really well with procurement, the staff up there, getting the backlog of vehicles nearly eliminated. We're down to basically totaled out and wrecked vehicles. We've got a few of those going, and we've actually moved on to heavy equipment. So the backlog of patrol cars and our sedans and pickups and vans is pretty much caught up on. So we've turned about just short of 120 vehicles in the past year and a half through the auction process. So yeah, a lot more room in that lower lot when we went down and looked at it last time, where they were all stacked up there. That's pretty much cleared out.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for that. If I could get, not today, but whenever it's convenient, just get a report of those 100 some odd vehicles and what they auctioned for and so on, I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you. Go on mute, Martha.
Not seeing any other questions, Chair.
Any other questions? Let's move on then.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Dan, Mike, and Warren. We'll come back to the other consent agenda items when you meet as that governing board. We are now going to reconvene as a new governing board, Chair Schrader. So next is Housing Authority of Clackamas County. If you have that script, Chair Schrader, we will, you're going to adjourn or recess and adjourn. So we're doing Housing Authority of Clackamas County next, Shannon. That's Devin Ellen, please.
All right, I will now recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as the Housing Authority of Clackamas County.
All right, thank you, commissioners. Housing Commissioner Leenstra is not able to be here today, so it's just the four of you. So again, you're now meeting as a Housing Authority of Clackamas County as you consider this next item. This is Hillside Park Redevelopment Developer Solicitation. There was a memo in your packet. Devin Ellen is from the Housing Authority. Devin, please go ahead.
Good morning, commissioners. As you know, the Housing Authority has been involved in a years-long effort to redevelop the Hillside Park public housing site. And with the renovation of Hillside Manor complete and the land use approvals now in place to support the density recommended in the master plan, the Housing Authority is ready to solicit conceptual proposals from developers for the redevelopment of Hillside Park. As you can see in your board memo, I am here today to inform the board of HAC's intent to release a request for expressions of interest, or RFEI. HAC staff coordinated with County Council and HAC's outside counsel to draft the solicitation. This RFEI is intended to provide flexibility. We are not seeking detailed proposals at this time. Instead, we are looking for expressions of interest from developers with viable ideas for the site and the ability to bring ideas to fruition. As a result of this solicitation, HAC will select a party with whom to enter into exclusive negotiations. HAC staff will keep the board apprised of the selection process as concepts progress and feasible proposals develop. And I want to reiterate that all binding agreements will be contingent upon written approval by the Housing Authority Board.
Commissioner Savas has his hand raised, Chair Schrader.
All right, Commissioner Savas.
Yes, well, thank you, Devin, for all your good work. It's kind of exciting to see this project progress. It's certainly going to open up a lot of opportunities for housing. Are you anticipating any challenges with regard to cost escalation and actually building these structures?
I mean, we're definitely watching that. We have, quite a bit of funding earmarked for the project with contingency built in. So, it's something that we're watching closely. But at this time, I think it's still too early to be, very, very concerned.
Right, and this is one of the Metro Housing Bond projects, correct?
Yes, Metro Housing Bond funds will be used on this project.
Great, thank you. I'm ready to go on it.
All right. Do we need a motion, Gary?
No, this is just an informational update, so you're not surprised. And then when action is forthcoming, we'll come back to you at a business meeting.
All right. Any other questions? Seeing none, I will now adjourn as the Housing Authority of Clackamas County and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners. What's next, Gary?
Thank you, Devin. And I'm sorry, Chair, I didn't get you quick enough. So next, if you would convene as the Water Environment Services Board, please. And Shannon, please bring in Greg.
Okay. I will now recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as the Water and Environment Services Board.
Thank you, Chair Schrader. So let's first do advisory board and commission appointments. You're appointing for the Water Environment Services Advisory Committee, and you're doing this on your hat as the Water and Environment Services Board. Shannon, can you please give that update?
Just one moment. The Water Environment Services Advisory Committee has 3 positions to be recruited for. One is a ratepayer from the city of West Lynn, 1 environmental representative, and 1 unincorporated representative. 3 recommendations are here before you today. First is Greg DiLoretto, representing the city of West Lynn, Renee Harbor as the environmental representative, and Catherine Miller as the unincorporated representative.
Commissioners, do we have any questions about the folks that we're moving forward? Okay, I think we need a motion.
Move for approval.
Seconded.
Been moved and seconded. So moved by Commissioner Savas, seconded by Commissioner Schull. Shannon, can you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Fisher. Commissioner Schull.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Vice Chair Schrader.
Aye. It's approved. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Next is the consent agenda for Water Environment Services. Item 1, approval of a resolution allowing the reduction of interest collected on certain existing assessment for Water Environment Services. Resolution will allow a write-down of approximately $9,528.75 in uncollected interest, subject to the exact timing of the repayment. This is funded through Water Environment Services monthly service charge revenues. No county general funds are involved. Greg, please go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners. Greg Geist, Water Environment Services Director. Back in the early 80s, Wesser constructed infrastructure up on Mount Hood, the Hoodland service area, and in some cases levied assessments on properties that benefited from that infrastructure. This particular piece, assigned a 12% annual interest rate when folks didn't pay those assessments. So this particular property stopped paying in 1988 with a balance of about $3,000. They want to sell the property. With that interest rate, the assessment is up to close to $16,000. So we think that 12% was somewhat punitive. It doesn't make a dent on our bottom line, but it certainly can to those property owners. So we wanted to assign a 3% annual interest rate and apply it to those assessments, which would take that $3,000, make it about $6,000 from that almost $16,000. So it would reduce that payment by about $9,000. We think it's the fair and right thing to do. The board approved us doing this in February of 2021 for 3 other properties. And this is the last property up in Hoodland that has that type of assessment on it. So this would be the last time that we do this.
Move for approval.
Seconded.
You're just putting this on your agenda for this Thursday. That's all. So I was just answering any questions you may have.
My motion is retracted.
Okay.
It's looking good, Greg, for Thursday.
Yeah, you're 3 out of 3 here. All right. So Gary, now I will adjourn. Sorry.
No, wait, Chair. So
there's more.
Thank you, Greg. So Commissioner Schrader, next we're going to convene as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District.
But first I have to recess. Am I correct?
Correct. The water and water. You're going to recess Water Environment Services, then convene as NCPRD.
Okay, I will now adjourn as the Water Environment Services Board and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners. Great. Okay, so we're good with that. And now I have to recess again as the Board of County Commissioners and reconvene as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. Okay, Gary, let's move ahead.
Thank you. So first, let's do consent agenda for the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. Item 1, approval of an addendum to the lease agreement of Clackamas Elementary School buildings and grounds between North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District and Cascade Heights Charter School. The addendum extends the lease through June 30th, 2023. The lease revenue for fiscal year 21-22 is $134,040 and increases 5% annually. This is funded by the Cascade Heights Charter School. No county general funds are involved. Mike Bork, please go ahead.
Good morning, Board and Vice Chair. I don't have anything else to report on that unless there's any other questions. This is an existing lease that we've got with the charter school, and we're requesting your approval on this 1-year addendum extension.
Any questions? Commissioner Savas has his hand raised, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. I just want to take this opportunity. I'm okay with the proposal, but we have a tremendous backlog of issues I think that need to come before the NCPRB Board of Directors ourselves. This property poses some opportunities, and so I think there's a lot of underutilized property and land in this area. So I think we have a lot of potential to do something good here. So I just want to flag this as something that an item of business I think that needs to be brought before the NCPRB Board of Directors in the near future. I think it's just too much opportunity, and that we can get out of this property, and I'm okay with extending the lease for 1 year.
Got it?
Good.
Any other?
I don't see anybody with any other hands up. Gary, is there?
Nope. So we'll put this on the consent agenda. Thank you. So quickly, all the consent agenda items you talked about today, Commissioners, will go to this Thursday's business meeting agenda. Thank you for that. You are still meeting as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Board. Commissioner Savas wanted to discuss NCPRD finances. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. What has come to light actually since Wednesday, somewhat apparent on Wednesday, but even more so over the weekend, a couple things. So I first will say that, Mike, I want to thank you for updating the District Advisory Committee on the finances. And, it certainly paints a much better picture than what we thought in November. So that, I think that definitely eased up. It's nice to know that, our finances there at NCPRD are what I thought they were about a year ago or so. So that's good to hear. I think I want to make sure my board's fully aware that the situation is indeed not dire, that there's about, if I heard it right, about close to $13 million in contingency monies there total with the reserves and so forth. So the finances are sound. You're nodding up and down. So I appreciate that report. And I'm just hoping that we can, and I don't know when we discuss this, but I'm hoping that we can resurrect, and we'll learn Thursday night with the task force as far as getting Concord back on track. I think it was somewhat unclear and perhaps even mistakenly represented that the project or the finances were so bad that this project had no hope in the first place. So I'm hoping to hear or see something Thursday night that better reflects some positive steps on the Concord project. All that said, the other thing that came up Wednesday night, and again, I kind of referenced it over the weekend and recent days here, is that there's I think a misunderstanding or several misunderstandings. So
I have a question. It's a simple question. Hopefully it's just a yes or no. But a couple of months ago, the Board of County Commissioners approved signing and going ahead with the construction IGA with City of Milwaukee in order to enable the 2 Inc. contract to go forward. Is that work underway with 2 Inc.?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for the answer. I think there was some people that feel that somehow that the funding for that and the work was somehow either being delayed. And I think that was misunderstood or not accurate. I don't think, are there any, I don't see any delays whatsoever with this project currently. I do know that there is a funding agreement already established, and it's not that much different than the funding agreement that is before us sometime in the future. So I just want to set the record straight that there are no delays. I think people were making public comments on Wednesday night thinking that we were delaying the project or that delays were resulting in escalations. But if 2 Inc. is going forward, as you stated, I just think that we need to do some messaging here in the near future to set the record straight that there is no delays. That the work is going forward. Thank you.
Understood. We will help share that message, Commissioner. Chair Smith is back, but she asked Chair Schrader for you to continue chairing the meeting.
I'm fine with that. Thank you, Chair Smith. So we are done with water and environments. No, excuse me, North Clackamas Park and Rec District. So now I will adjourn as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners. Okay, Gary, where are we?
Thank you. We have one final item, and that is Commissioner Communications.
Who would like to go first?
I'll start. I have a request. I'm sorry, Chair Schrader, Chair Smith, if I probably should have raised this, but it probably wasn't appropriate. So I don't know, again, I don't think it's NCPRD business per se, but it does relate to that. And that my request is that that we request from NCPRD staff what the actual financial cost for the Concord project was as we all knew it in June of 21. And subsequent to June of 21, we did have some price escalations. And I would like to know what that amount is for that portion of the cost escalation due to inflation, COVID related, and so forth. And if there are any other numbers that added to the cost since subsequent to June 21st or June of 21, what those others are. I would like to have that clearly defined. Because if some of that is, again, inflationary and escalation as a result of COVID, I think that ought to be a consideration for ARPA. But I'd certainly like to have that better defined. Thank you.
We'll get that, Commissioner, for you all.
Okay, so Paul, we'll get that information. We'll get to you. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Who would like to go next? Commissioner Shull. Oh, Commissioner.
Chair Smith has your hand raised. Chair Smith has
Chair Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Martha, for taking over the meeting for me. I'll get a briefing on what was either discussed and or decided when I finish. I have another interview coming up at 11:45 with Coin 6. I think the last one went well. Kimberly Dinwiddie also accompanied me. So, she's there offering support and so forth. I think it's important that we get our message out. And I'll continue to do that in the best way that I can. And thank you all for coming and showing up today and doing the work. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chair Smith. Okay, Commissioner Shull, have you got something to share?
Vice Chair Schrader, I have nothing for you today. We've had a very busy week. Times are busy, but I have no liaison issues to pass today. Thank you.
So I saved the best for last, and that is my colleague and friend, Mr. Fisher. Have you got something to share today?
No, I think we shared quite a lot. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm all shared out, I must tell you. But anyway, it's been delightful seeing all of you. We're going to get through everything that we need to get through. And with that optimistic thought, I'm going to go pet my barking dog. Okay, we'll see you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.